So interface, really, really straightforward. If you ever need to get back to code.org, you just click on the top left here. You could rename your project. I would suggest for classroom management, having your kids name it, because they're probably going to send you a link and it's just a lot easier to have that specific name. So we'll call this New York. And then you can save it. There's the share button here. The note about that is that when you're sharing a app that a younger learner has made, you have to make sure that you have the permissions turned on in your account settings, which I'll show you at the end too. So again, two tabs here that we're going to use. This is also the data tab, which we have for like bonus extra things. But the two main tabs we're going to use today are code and design. And they're pretty straightforward. So, we can code using all of our code blocks here. We also have the text. So if you look on the top right, you can toggle between using JavaScript and using the blocks. So right now I have it on JavaScript, but I'm going to stick with blocks for this workshop. But again, if you have students who are more inclined to experiment with code in their free time, I would suggest encouraging them to experiment half on blocks, half on JavaScript. So the left is our workspace. If you take a look, you'll see there's a drop-down menu for screens. You can physically navigate through your screens using this tab, and that's going to come up as soon as we start importing our screens. Our design tab actually works in conjunction with our coding tab. So you'll notice there are things like buttons, which we will use. Even though we made aesthetic buttons in Canva, we're actually going to code them using invisible buttons in code.org. And a variety of other options. So text inputs, drop downs, labels. Labels are basically just, we can throw in big titles for things if we need. Different buttons where if you want to create some interactivity with your app, images, canvas, screen, etc. So our very first job is going to be to import our full media library. The way that we do this is we can click on our design screen, and you'll notice that we have our design toolbox here, and then in our workspace, it's a little different than our code workspace, but we have our ID, which is really important. This is going to be whatever you end up coding will show up using these IDs. So what I'm going to do is right now I'm making our splash screen. So I'm going to name this splash screen. A good naming convention is if you're using more than one word, you should always throw a capital in between the two. Background color we could ignore for right now, but it is also, I mentioned, you can create fully functioning apps just using code.org, but right now we don't need it because we made our own backgrounds. So in order to import our library, I'm going to click on choose and then upload files, and then I'm going to upload, unfortunately, Canva, code.org only lets you do one at a time. So it can be a little bit of a tedious process, but I'm basically going to go in and put in all of my screens now. So I have my splash screen, I have my menu screen, I have my content screens that I'm now uploading. So I'm going to just pause here and make sure everyone has a chance to, again, navigate to code.org, make sure you're logged in, make sure you got to the project and are on your design screen, and let me know if you have any questions. Nope, okay, good, you're kicking along so far, great. All right, so this is a one little tidbit I've noticed students struggle with sometimes. When you are selecting an asset, your default is to think like, oh, okay, it's uploaded, so it's going to automatically select. A lot of time younger students will upload a file and then it won't show up and they're really confused. Just remind them they have to click choose. So again, our workflow right now is we are in the design tab, and we've just uploaded our images using the choose button next to image. And right now I'm on my splash screen, so I'm going to use my splash screen GIF and set that as my background. All right, now This is where we kind of interact in between the code and the design screen. So what I like to do is set up all my screens first before I start coding, just that way I have everything in one place. So I'm gonna go here to my design toolbox and drag a screen onto uh, the code spot. I'm sorry, the phone spot. So you'll notice now my drop-down menu has new screen, import screen, and splash screen. You can also import screens through the drop-down menu. I just found for younger kiddos, it's easier to have them go through the design toolbox just because there's more of a visualization. It is a little bit easier to use the drop-down menu though. So I'm going to do the same thing I just did. I'm going to click on choose. I'm going to go to my menu screen. I'm going to add that as a background. And then I'm also going to change the ID, which is right here again at the top, to menu screen. Again, this is really crucial because it's going to be what we use to interact and code in just a moment. So make sure that you are, if you have them all labeled screen 1, screen 2, screen 3, screen 4, it will still work, but it will be confusing, especially if you have a multitude of screens. So I'm just going to be doing this now. Add in all your screens, make sure you're adding your IDs, and you will be good to go. Screen 3. What did I have for screen 3? Something I forget. Oh, there we go. Myth. Okay, myth is screen 3. Myth screen.
I'm sorry, I had to step away, but how do we get to um like a blank workspace as opposed to like going through the whole intro to app?
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Um
yeah. So you just you can click on, if you're here, you can always click on the code.org icon, the top left. That should
mm,
bring you to the home. And or you can also click on projects,
got it.
and
Okay.
then under projects, it's right there.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. All right, screen 4. Okay, and just let me know when you are ready and you have all of your screens uploaded. You'll notice as you add all the screens, this again will populate with all the screens that you have created. Okay. Does anyone need more time to upload their stuff, or are we thumbs up? Thumbs up. Cool. All right. So we have that's our main library. That's great. That's all in a row. All ducks are in a row. We're gonna tap back to our code screen. So this is actually the best part. It's a really straightforward and simplistic template. We're gonna make sure that we're on our splash screen. And we're gonna be using this specific, I'm gonna actually take it off. We're gonna be using the very first event under our UI controls a lot. This is gonna be like our main code friend for this app. So what this does is it allows the user to interact with the app in some particular way. So what we're gonna be doing is taking that first box, dragging it over here, and by default it says on event ID click, and then there's a function space, and then there is the alligator mouth for another block. So right now I am going to code my splash screen to just be one of those, like, okay, you tap it and then it loads the next screen. So on event, the ID should be our splash screen, and it's going to be click. So that means if you click anywhere on the entire screen, it will generate this event and put it into place. So that is our first piece of block. Our second one is actually all the way at the bottom of UI controls, and it is the third from the bottom. It is set screen. So what this will do is as soon as we click anywhere on the screen, we're going to change our screen to the menu screen, right? So this is just a splash screen. It doesn't really need to have anything going on with it. A note, your workspace for code will generate all the code for all of the screens. So it might be a little confusing at first. While your design screens are different, right? And you can go through and you'll see the properties change. Oops, sorry. The properties change. When it comes to your code screen, all of the code for every screen, everything that you're doing is all going to be in one spot, okay? So just a heads up on that one. So now we can run our code. And the very first thing we'll do is I'll click. Does it work? Yeah. So as soon as I click on it, it brings us to the menu screen, which is exactly what I needed. Now, here's where it's going to be the button time. So if you go back to your design and head to your menu screen, we need to add buttons for each of these buttons that already exist. Now, the reason I had you do them in Canva, again, is because this is what the buttons look like in code.org. There are, like, you can totally edit it in terms of text and color. There's a few fonts and things like that. But given that this was a really big design project, I wanted the kids to have just like unlimited options in terms of their designs. So that's why we jumped in Canva. Nothing against code.org, it's great. You can do a variety of things with the buttons. You can actually even choose a specific button image if you want to. But the easiest way I found for this to work is if you're using your own assets, is to actually just make the button over the button that you've already created. And then what you're going to do is you're going to make sure the size is identical. That way it's, you know, anyone that taps on that spot is going to go to that screen that we're sending them to. It might be a little tricky if you have rounded edges, but as long as you get in the general gist of it, it's good. You're going to change your background color to transparent, and then you're also going to change your border color to transparent. You're only going to have to do this once because you can repeat these steps, and you can just copy the specific button. And then you're going to delete the text. So it doesn't need to say anything. So right now there is a button there. You can see because you've moused over it, but it is invisible. So it will still function in the way that the code requires it to, but it's just going to look like you're clicking on your button, which is much fancier and prettier because we made it in Canva. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change my ID to button myth, right? That way I know specifically this is the button that's taking me to the myth screen. This one's really important because, again, this is something that's going to come up in our code. Other than that, the only thing you need to adjust is actually nothing. Yeah. So as long as you have the border and the background is transparent, you are good to go. And in the future, if you're not generating assets that you're going to import, this is just how you would make a button normally. And, you know, you could use text and you could have it say myth yourself and, you know, have them function as normal buttons. All right, I'm going to pause for questions here or anything. No, I think good. Okay. So after we do that, we are going to create, yes, I will share the recording 100%. After that, we're going to need to create more of these buttons. So if you look on the, I'm like, where did it go? The chat was hiding it. If you look on the top right here in your workspace, you can click on duplicate and you'll notice another little invisible button popped up underneath, right? And I'm going to drag that over my map screen. Once you select, and you can notice this in properties, once you select a new property or a new thing, anything that's on your app in the design screen, it will switch to that automatically, which is really helpful. So right now I'm on the button for myths, but then I can click on the map button and it's automatically putting me right there. So I'm going to rename that again, button map. And then that's all you have to do. You literally just have to rename them, specifying where they're going. So again, I'm going to do this. I'm going to duplicate it, pop it right back, the new one right down. I know it's the new one because it's called button 3. I'm going to name it button climate. Same thing, all the way down. There we go. Grab it. There we go. Okay. That's in music. And I need one more. And then we are good. So does everybody have buttons on each of their screens? Good. Okay, cool. All right. So now that we have basically all the things we need in spots for just functionality, we can start coding these as well. So we're gonna, like I said, we're gonna use this little bit of code quite a bit. So you can either Control C or Command C and Command V, copy and paste it. But instead of using our splash screens, now we're gonna go through and click on our drop-down menu and just assign each button to the screen. And this is actually really straightforward. If you named everything, you're literally just matching them up as you go. So button climate click should set screen to climate. And then I'm gonna do the same thing. So button myth should set the screen to myth. And then going forward for all of the buttons that I need. Something that I've noticed the that can occasionally be an issue is kids will try to type in instead of selecting the drop down menu, which is a-okay. But that's also where they will find most of their bugs and errors is they will forget to capitalize something or just one stray typo and the code will crash. So just a heads up, if you are implementing that and you're having them put them in themselves, that is 99% of what they're going to run into issue wise is they just didn't they forgot a capital. It's almost always it's a capital letter. But for me it was really helpful to be able to just go look in the code and say, oh no, does it match up? And that should be helpful for them as well. Oh, I need one more screen. There you go. Oh, okay.
Did you say that you could create like a template for students so that they could just go get up and running with all of this?
Yeah, so basically this right now what I can do is I can click on remix
Mm-hmm.
and then
Share the code.
share the code. Yeah, so they
Share the
can.
link with them.
And then, so right now, like I'm in if you took this specific link, you would just be able to remix this specific template. And it's all individualized. So you don't have to worry about it getting, everyone working on one, code document. It will create their own instance of it.
Okay.
Yeah. So like this nitty, this part that is like fun CT, but maybe not applicable in science, you can have this pre-generated for them and then have them go in and import their own stuff. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Did you say you hide the buttons?
You don't have to hide them. No. You just make them look invisible. If they're hidden, they will not function.
And how do you make it invisible again? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no problem. So you're gonna click on there's just two things you need to adjust. The border color, which is on the bottom,
Mhm.
and then the background color. So when you click on, I'm sorry, is it the background color? Am I on the wrong thing? I'm on the wrong thing. Okay. Yeah, background color. If you click on it and then you move the slider all the way to transparency.
Slide to transparency.
Yeah, so
All the way to the
there's
left. Got it. All the
yes,
way to the left, right? Yeah.
all the way to the left. Yep. So
And
that's
then
just
what's the
I'm
other?
sorry, the background color and the border color, which is at the bottom.
Okay.
Yeah. So once you have all of those ready to go, you can run your code and see if it functions. We also need to do one piece until we're ready to start populating, but just go ahead and check and see if that works. So right now when I run my code, I can click on my splash screen. I can go to my myth. Awesome. Now, the problem we have now is that we need to get back to our menu screen. So here's where, and I did this intentionally, we're actually going to make our own buttons, not using the designs that we had, just so that you know how to do them. But it is something that you can add into your screens if you do generate them outside of code.org. So that's just the same process as before. You're gonna have to go to each individual screen, drag a button onto the table, add a ID that says, menu, we can do button menu map. This is where you start to get to having a lot of buttons. So this is again where the template is helpful. But you can design the button, you can put it wherever you'd like. You can put it at the bottom, at the top, wherever. And then just make sure it says menu. And then this button is going to be the one that directs us back to our home screen. So if we go under our code, we're going to do the same spiel, grab one of our event blocks and change our button menu map click to bring us back to the menu screen. And reminder, you're going to need to do that on each of the pages, or you will have to reset the code because you'll be stuck on that page. Okay. So at this point, you can start generating anything you need into the app. So say you have a myth that you wrote about New York. This is where we can go into our design screen and start adding things. So big differentiator between text input and text area. So this is something that the kiddos forgot about sometimes. So they would put all their essays into a text input, and then the second that you clicked on it, of course, it's assuming you're going to write there, so they would lose it. So just make sure if you're adding any text from this code.org workspace that you're using the text area and not the text input, because that will save you a bit of a headache. But there's also a lot of other things too. If you want to generate anything just purely in code.org, you can use like labels. Like I said, they're kind of like the Nito titles. You can adjust things, text, there's height, width. It's very flexible. Colors, again, this is where if you generated a palette and you have a specific color that you're using, you can go ahead and pop that right in here. Oh, I don't know why I thought it would still be there. Copied so many links since then. But you can go ahead and pop it right in there. There's fonts, borders, etc. Images works very similar to the background image screen. You can actually choose an image that you've already uploaded in your assets, or you can add a link. So I'm gonna like look up what's a New York myth? Gowanus Canal Monster, we'll say. I'm gonna look up a picture for that, and we'll just use this beautiful picture here. You're gonna just grab the URL, and then you can add it right into code.org. Submit, and then it will display. So again, a lot of flexibility from the actual tool itself in terms of any content that you wanted to add or generate. This is more of an advanced piece that I'm going to go into next, and we're not obviously going to have time to cover it. It wasn't really part of this specific workshop anyway, but there's full libraries of data as well in code.org, and this is what might be really helpful for science teachers. You can actually import specific data. So say there is, let's see, ozone and nitrogen dioxide concentrations. Cool. So if you look on that data tab, which is on the right here, you can browse through their data sets, and you can also import your own data sets. So let's use this one for right now. So right now I'm importing the ozone and nitrogen dioxide concentrations, which feels appropriate by the Gowanus Canal, right? All right, so then if you click on the data set itself, you can actually visualize the data and generate charts and tables based on it. And it actually gets really, really complex. Like you can create scatter plots using this tool. So let's say it's nitrogen, and we're gonna make a scatter plot, and we'll do time and state. City. Sorry, time and time does not work. It's a very boring scatter plot. Let's do latitude. Okay, and it will actually generate for you, which is pretty cool. So you can have your students experiment with their own experiments and utilize this tool. It's kind of an interesting tool. I'm not entirely sure why they included it in this piece of it, but it's fascinating. So there's a lot of different genres in here that you can go through: arts, history, STEM stuff, politics. There's actually one that talks about the I think it's under miscellaneous. Yeah, the AP computer science test taker by demographics. So there's a lot of stuff to explore in here. So that's just kind of a bonus one. And I've actually included a lesson plan that I believe has the data into it. And code.org itself has a walkthrough for it as well, which is in your resources packet. So yeah, so we have our myths, we have our screens. Does anyone have any questions? No. Okay. So yeah, this is if you have coded all of the events and you have all of your splash screens and all of your buttons linked together, you should have a fully functioning app now. So I'm gonna run mine. I have my splash screen. I can go to myth. Amazing. And reminder, you want to make sure you have those home buttons too, so people can go back to the main screen as well. What I would love to do now, if you're comfortable with it, I would love to see what you folks are working on, if you want to share your apps.
I'm way behind. I'm just trying to keep up with you. So
No
I'm gonna
worries.
have to work on it after, a little later.
That's okay.
And can you hear me?
Yeah.
I got booted out of code.org and I can't seem to find my way back to what I created. I know that
No
sounds
problem.
crazy.
So if you look, I'm going to share my screen again. If you go under, also, this will autosave, which is the most helpful thing.
Yeah.
If you go under projects, you can, this is the regular thing. You can actually see the stuff you've already worked on. It's all the way at the bottom.
Okay. And then I just click, it says untitled project. I thought I named it.
Yeah, did you you might not have hit this, sometimes the save button, it's in a weird spot. It might have just,
It didn't
yeah.
save anything. Is that
It didn't
possible?
save. Are you logged into the class account?
I don't know if I am. Maybe I got logged out.
Let me check, because I can actually see it and pull it up if I'm.
Use the link you sent.
Yeah, let me just, I can double check from here though and see if it is there. Oh, the community bots app. This is so cool. Yeah, no, it's here.
It is there? Okay, so
Yeah.
go to my dashboard and once I'm in.
It should be, yeah, if you're logged in,
Oh, I
I
got
can,
it.
you got it. Okay, cool.
I'm finally
I love
back. Yeah.
this is so cool.
All right.
Awesome. Okay. Does anyone need any help just getting the screens or the buttons or anything coded? Because that's always the trickiest part. I know. It's great to make all of the amazing aesthetic choices and then coding the buttons, that's always the hang up I've noticed. So let me know if you need any help with that. Awesome. Okay. Does anyone have anything they want to share? It's okay if it's like super not finished yet. Mine doesn't have any text in it, so that's fair. Alrighty. So I guess we can take a couple more minutes to work and just let me know if you have any questions. Actually, I do, yeah, I want to take a couple minutes at the end just to show you the resource folder, but we'll take like 2 more minutes to work.
How do we test it out?
So if you click on run, you can test it.
Okay. And where's that run?
Under
On the bottom.
your,
Okay.
yeah.
Got it.
Okay, so real quick, I'm gonna share my screen. This is I'm gonna put this link right now in the chat. This is da, 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 da. This is the resource drive for this. And I'm gonna share my screen. Oops, sorry, I just sent it to you. I always do that. There we go. It's in the chat now. So this is the resource drive that I have compiled. So if you look right here, the app making for every classroom, that's a step-by-step, literally what we did today. So you can go in and there's like what we did, we used Jamboard, and then here's a link of digital literacy tools that you can use, and then here's the specific process. So there's Balsamic, there's Wireframe CC that we use, Coolers, Canva, code.org, and then there's a bunch of different links to things that are relevant to whatever, and just some bonus ones. There's also an App Lab help uh, resource guide. So if you click on this, there's just a ton of, if you have specific
We don't have
questions
the
or
link.
whatever. Oh, that's only the picture link. Oh no, I'm sorry. It's gremlins today, I'm telling you. Technology gremlins. There we go. Okay. All right, there we go. So that's the App Lab help. This is an additional, like just a bonus lesson plan. This is like a full pathway for programming. And then I also pulled, this is a full unit on teaching within code.org and App Lab. So this is for a mix of a couple of apps, but this is from the Raspberry Pi Foundation, which has a ton of great curriculum and content. And they actually have like a full unit overview, complete with slides and other things. You may not need to or like want to teach this whole thing, but I found there's some like really neat and helpful like little tidbits in here, especially the user input. If you're interested in having your users generate like logins or things like that, this is where that kind of more complex coding comes into play. So I wanted to make sure that you all had access to that. And there's like the full slides. There's actually worksheets for the kids too. So it's pretty comprehensive. Um, and I think, yeah, I mean, you could basically run a lesson off of this if you need to. I personally like to use it for just, you can pop in and see like, okay, here's if we wanted to use like a segment of code in order to input text for something that then we'll need to calculate math for, which so again, helpful for science, etc. So yeah, that is all I've got for you folks today. I put my email, I'm gonna put it in the chat as well. But please let me know if you have any questions or if you're curious about implementing anything, or if you have interesting ways that you've implemented tech or digital literacy or anything that you're working on. I love talking about this stuff. So email me anytime.
Thank you, Amanda. I found that however I downloaded my original screen is not supported in code.co. So I have to go back and try to figure that out.
Yeah, so actually I can walk you through that really quickly. It's just on Canva. You just have to download it as if you have, do you have animations on it?
I have an animation on it. Yeah, yes.
Yeah. So it's gonna like default to a video. Let me throw my screen up real quick. And you just have to select download as a GIF. So if you take a look here, the workflow is share and then download and then change the file type to a GIF if it's only one page.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
And
it's
then
two,
if it's multiple
okay.
pages, you just do like GIF page 1, GIF page 2, GIF page 3.
Okay, that's yeah, okay. That helps. I'll work on that.
Yeah. All right. Any more questions or anything before we head out for the day?
I have just a thought. Man, do you have any time? Do you have a few seconds I could just meet with you afterwards to tell you about my
Yeah,
organization?
I would love to. I would love to hear about your nonprofit. That sounds
Okay.
amazing.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
I look forward to working more with this. I appreciate all the great information.
Yeah. No, and please shoot me an email if you have any trouble.
Okay.